All right, on today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, we touched on the Zach Parise maybe going to the Avalanche topic yesterday, but we will discuss it a little bit more today. There's a couple things that I want to talk about, which we will get to, and the Locked On NHL network. We did the Hart Trophy power rankings. Now we're going to do the Norris. So we'll get to that and a lot more on today's episode of Locked On Avalanche.
Your Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Make sure you're following us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram, Threads, questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us over on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live, and subscribe to our subtext. Link to that is in the show notes below. When you do, chat with Kyle and I one-on-one, become a special insider, and we take your thoughts and opinions and share them on this very podcast. All right. Jam-packed show today, sir. So we'll get to, if you're watching on YouTube, there was a pretty interesting Athletic article where they give the percentages of winning the Stanley Cup in specifically 2028. So 4 years from now, where did the Avs stand on that? We'll discuss that. Like I said, we'll get to that Norris power ranking in a little bit. I want to start with the Zach Parise stuff because it seems to be picking up even more steam from when we talked about it yesterday. And there's another reason why I want to talk about it, because so many people were discussing it, and you see it a lot on social media, and you see it a lot in Denver media outlets. So I reached out to somebody who I don't want to throw their name out there, but believe me when I tell you, this is a very reputable person. And it's somebody that I trust maybe more than anybody. And I reached out to them and I said, have you heard any rumors about this? Is there any truth to it? And they wrote back and they said, I just said, are you hearing anything about the Zach Parise to Avalanche rumors? And they wrote back saying, I think it's possible, yes. So that changes my mind of, because yesterday I was thinking, like, I don't think the Avalanche are even interested in this. I think this is something that was we said it, Russo from the one of the Minnesota Wild podcast said it. I just got the gut feeling because he threw it out there and people were running with it, and there was really no validity to that other than him just saying that. And I'm not trying to minimize hit, like, he's very reputable too, right? But I just thought it was like, I thought he just like threw the Avalanche out there and hey, they could be a team. And then, it's gotten to where it's gotten now. When this person wrote back to me and said, like, I think it's possible, my thinking has gone from, okay, the Avalanche clearly are interested in this. So it's changed from I just don't feel like they're interested in it to I don't think they should do this. You know what I mean? I still don't really like bringing him in, and it's not against Zach Parise. I've always really liked the guy. And I know he's played for the enemy for a long time, but he was a good player. But I go back to what I said yesterday. I think he's just at the end of the road for him right now. And that's not an Avalanche move to bring someone like him who hasn't played the age that he's at, to bring him in and say, like, you need to be a part of this team and be productive. Just seems counterproductive to what the Avalanche have been doing for the past handful of years.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring this back up because guess what? We're a day removed from the conversation we had on Parise, and guess what? Zach Parise is a day older than he was the last time we talked about this. And guess what? Why? Just I still have not. I've perused the YouTube comments. I've not seen one valid reason why Parise should be a member of this Colorado Avalanche squad going forward and into the playoffs. And if the Avalanche thought this was a good idea, why did they not make a move on Blake Wheeler last year? Why are they not going
Well, that's a
after
different
Ilya?
position. Are you just saying like for age?
Age and comparable. That's a
Yeah.
it's a very comparable contract. And if you're going for, I mean, why are you bringing in? We've talked about free agents. Every free agent that or name attached to the trade market
Mhm.
is right there with the Colorado Avalanche. Why are they trying to
Mhm.
be smarter than the game of hockey and get somebody who is sitting at home? What value does that add to the Avalanche trying to make a
Right.
playoff push? Like that it just doesn't make hockey sense. Like, why are they not going to get Yamir Yager, Ilya Kovalchuk? Like, there's
Yeah.
players out there. Like, if you want to go get recently retired guys or guys that are in the AHL, like, why were they never in on Jumbo Joe Thornton? We talked about Phil Kessel. Like, there are names out there that you could go and get if you're really wanting to do this. Why are you getting Zach Parise, who has not played? I saw the comments about, well, you could get rid of Ryjo, and this is exactly what you need to do. No, Ryjo's actually has points this year.
I know,
So
right? Are you giving up Ryan Johansson to go get like Zach Parise? Like I that doesn't compute for me.
yeah, and
No.
we're talking about Landeskog coming back to the ice, and look how well he's skating. We're going to be doing that for somebody we're signing. What sense does that make? Like, let's we just signed Zach Parise. I can't wait to see him make his comeback and get back into hockey shape. No, it just doesn't make any logical sense.
I read something where like I don't think he's just we were joking yesterday how he's just sitting home playing video games. Like if he wants to get back in the league, like he's working out. You know,
Yeah.
he is probably taking care of himself in some capacity, but he's 39 years old. He's only a few years younger than me. So, you know, it's tough to get off the couch sometimes. So, you know, he's in much better shape than I am, but it catches up to you.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it. I am no way comparing Zach Parise to Alex Ovechkin here. But you're seeing we just saw Ovechkin play the Avalanche, right? And
Mhm.
you're seeing like players hit a wall age-wise. And it happens like that. And last year, everybody was just like just a matter of time before Alexander Ovechkin gets that Gretzky record. And it's a foregone conclusion. And I was sitting back here saying, like, don't do this until don't just put him in number one spot till he gets there. Because I didn't think it was gonna be this much of a drop off for Ovechkin, but it's significant. This is what happens. Bodies, they don't shut down, they just can't keep up with the youth movement, right? And Parise is not expected if he were to come in to do and Alexander Ovechkin stuff. But if you're bringing him in, you're expecting him to do something, and you don't see teams banging down the door to go get Zach Parise right now. So, and again, I said it yesterday. If he had been playing, if he was with the team right now, and they were just looking to unload him, and you had a kind of a barometer of how his season has been going, then maybe you entertain it. But I am so skeptical of just a guy at his age not playing a second to come in and play this Avalanche system. We saw Josh Manson when he was traded come over mid-season, and he struggled for the rest of the year to pick up and it took him a year to do it. And we're expecting a 39-year-old forward that plays on a speed team to come in and pick it up. I don't know, man. Like again, it's not a knock on him personally or his hockey career. It's been great. But at this point, I'm just like scratching my head on it. I have one more point, but I want to know what you got to say.
No, and it just doesn't make sense. And I think the Avalanche are, if there's any legitimacy to all of this going on, it kind of makes me feel like the Avalanche are kind of doubling down on their philosophy. We made Nichushkin work, we made Drouin work. Let's give up. We're really good at rehabbing players that teams give up on, but
Mhm.
time is unbeaten. Teams make decisions all the time, but you can't beat time. And if the league is nobody's out there like kicking the tires on Zach Parise right now. And there have been teams that have started out hot and have fallen off. There are teams that need guys like Zach Parise. The Avalanche don't need a left wing. Let's be honest here. They need a backup goalie, and maybe some defensive help. A left
And a
wing is
2C.
high on the Christmas list right here.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it just doesn't make a lot of sense to be making this move and feel like you're going to have a Drouin part 2 or a Nichushkin part 2 because nobody's asking for this.
Yeah, but and it's funny that you say that because I don't feel like the Avalanche are in that position anymore where they're just they have the Midas touch. Where with Nichushkin was great. Drouin seems like that's another version of that. But now like you've had some misses as well. You have,
Tomas
Ryan
Tatar.
Johansson does exactly. That was the two I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
Tatar and Johansson don't look like they're what you got, obviously, out of Valnichuskin or something like that. So it just goes to show you it's not, the Avalanche are not like infallible. Like it can go the opposite way. So, and the last thing that I wanted to touch on, and I don't know where to go with this, but I just thought of it. The Avalanche are typically very good at not having stuff leaked of moves that they want to make. I mean, how many times have we've thought about a trade that they were going to do or a free agent signing that they were going to do, and then they go get somebody that we weren't even thinking of
Yeah.
or that was not on the list. We always throw out those guys, those the big fishes of like a free agency market, and they usually end up not signing those guys. And they have a plan. It's not because they didn't want to sign that guy, or maybe they didn't want to sign that guy, but they have a board and they have a plan. And they are very good about not getting that stuff out there into the public. So that simple fact has me questioning the whole thing to begin with on how did it get out? The Avs don't let that happen. So how it got out, it might have been on the Parise side of things, but if they were interested, I'm sure they would have told him this doesn't go outside of this room that we're talking in or phone call that we're having. So that honestly is a little bit of a surprise to me because you don't see this in Avalanche land of leaks of guys that they're genuinely interested in. So, and that's another reason why I was thinking yesterday, I don't really buy into this right now.
Yeah, and to wrap it up, I feel like it's an intentional that it might have leaks because going back to the Tatar move, why pick up a 5th round pick if you're going to do nothing with it and then go pick up somebody literally sitting at home and get nothing for it, nothing additional in the package and not lose anything, especially with you got the LTIR money that you're playing around with right now, but you might need that. It's already tight for the Avalanche as it is. Why go out and buy a player for nothing? No, it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
So, but like I said, I've changed from I thought there was like no validity to and just stories that people were latching onto to okay, I heard from who I heard from, and now I've turned to I don't think they should do it. It seems like they're interested. I don't agree with it. I'll say that if they do it. Remains to be seen. We shall see. If it happens, obviously we will discuss it. What we're going to discuss now is Locked On Avalanche, or Locked On NHL host, I should say. Well, we did vote on it too. Locked On NHL host voted on the Norris Trophy power rankings. We did the Hart, where Nathan MacKinnon was leading that. Is Cale Makar in the lead for this one as well? We'll discuss that coming up next. First, we're going to hear from Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, then you need Indeed, because Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree that Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. So join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of Locked On Avalanche will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/locked on. Just go to Indeed.com/locked on right now and support Locked On Avalanche by saying you heard about Indeed on this very podcast. Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, then you need Indeed. We are also brought to you by FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. The regular season is over. We are deep into the postseason now, but there's still plenty of time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get a $150 credit in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. There's a lot of fun things to do over on that app. You can do live same game parlays, overs, unders, spreads, you name it. They got it over at FanDuel. So visit fanduel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. That's FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. All right, let's get to this Norris ranking, power ranking, I should say. Like I said, we did the Hart Trophy. This is the Norris, and Nathan MacKinnon was #1 over Kucherov in the Hart. Is Nathan MacKinnon, or excuse me, is Cale Makar #1 on the Norris? Let's bring it up here, sir. If you're watching over on YouTube, there it is. I'll read off the top 10. Number 10 is Josh Morrissey. 9, Evan Bouchard. 8, Roman Josi. 7, Rasmus Dahlin. 6, Miro Heiskanen. 5, Charlie McAvoy. 4, Adam Fox. 3, Noah Dobson. 2, Cale Makar. And number 1 is obviously Quinn Hughes. And that's, how the Hart is a two-headed race. Pretty much the Norris is as well. And just to give you an idea of how close this voting was, the average spot for Quinn Hughes was 1.6, and the average spot for Cale Makar was 1.7. So if you just had one vote flip, I'm sure those two guys would flip. So it's literally a neck and neck. This is a voting day, election day, too close to call race right now. But the way it stands right now, Cale Makar's number 2. What do you think?
This is one of those that once the season continues a little bit more, I feel like this levels out, and I feel like balance will be restored, and Cale Makar will take his worthy spot at the number 1 spot. Because yes, Quinn Hughes, he has had a good year, and Cale Makar has been admittedly spotty. We've talked about this every day or so. We've talked about the lack of the all hail Cale moments until the Washington game, but here we are. And Cale's racked up 7 assists in the last 10. We're about to play the Los Angeles Kings that don't look now, but they're not scaring anybody. So, and everybody's gunning for Vancouver right now. Like, you look at the standings and you have Winnipeg and Vancouver dancing around up there, but you don't know why, you don't know how, and everybody's just trying to knock them down a little bit. So I feel like Cale Makar is going to slowly start climbing his way back up and then just live there for the rest of the season.
Do you feel like, how we're talking about with the Hart and how we're Avalanche fans, obviously, so we kind of lean towards Nathan MacKinnon. That's a two-headed race with him and Kucherov. And we kind of talked about how Nathan MacKinnon has been like owed one almost, and how voters might think that way too, by the end of the year. And when voting comes around, maybe lean towards him because he's deserving of one at this point. And so it's twofold. He's having a phenomenal season, and we owe him one. So there you go. Do you think voters, when they go to the Norris, kind of get ahead of that game and say, like, well, let's give Quinn Hughes one now because we know Cale Makar is going to get a handful of these by the time his career is over with? Or do you think they live in the moment and say, because this is a two-headed monster too, like between Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar. It is. And I wonder if at the end of the season, voters look at like, okay, like, yeah, it's close, but Cale Makar from head to toe is the best defenseman in this league. That's who we give it to. Or do they give it to Hughes because he's having a good season too? And yeah, Makar's got so much hardware. Let's give Quinn Hughes some shine.
Yeah, and we saw Cale Makar versus Quinn Hughes already this season, and we saw the clear discrepancy in the two talents. And it's one of those that when you're going to look and you look at the standings, you look a little bit more into Quinn Hughes and say, hey, it looks like it's finally panning out for this Quinn Hughes guy. This might be the year he finally does it. But then you're like, oh yeah, there's that Cale Makar guy. We could give him the Norris. We could give him the vote. But you know what? Is this his year where he could be considered for the Hart? Because this Cale Makar is not going to live in. He's not going to live in Norris land with that talent. He could be looking at Hart. He could be looking. He's got multiple pieces of hardware in his future. So it's one of those that you kind of take him for granted. But again, like I said, once the season progresses a little bit, we get past the All-Star game, things will start to balance out because Quinn Hughes, yes, Vancouver, they have a good team, but I don't know how long it can last. And Cale is starting to get fired up, and he's going to have Nathan MacKinnon-like games coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So, you know what's funny on here, man? Like, you know who's not in this top 10? Victor Hedman. And I'm not saying he should be. I'm just saying, like that was the standard for a long time. Was Victor Hedman was it? That was no ifs, ands, or buts. You can give him the Norris every single year, and he's still a very good player. But look what's happened in the league. The league has started to focus more on defensive players that have offensive capabilities, and we've used that as how we kind of award our Norris Trophy. But you know, it's become a position that really is, but there's been a lot more focus on it right now, and you see these names on this top 10, and like, man, like you'd love to have any one of those guys on your team. It league's in a really good spot defensively.
And it's surprising to see Noah Dobson in the perennial Roman Josi spot at 3, but to see Roman Josi fall down to 8, and I would put I'd put Haskin in a little bit higher, honestly.
And I think, you know, you got Adam Fox at 4. I think for a lot of people, Makar and Fox are the two guys at the top of this league. And Quinn Hughes, I don't want to say Quinn Hughes came out of nowhere, but you know, maybe the season he's having is a little bit of a surprise. As good as the season he's having, he's a top 10 defenseman by far. But I think at the beginning of the season, if you're going to list who the Norris Trophy candidates are, it's Cale Makar 1, Adam Fox 2. I mean, those guys right now are 2 and 4 in our list, so it's not like they're dropping anywhere. But those two guys are kind of where I think of with the league. And to go back to the Hart thing, Cale Makar was 7, I believe, on the Hart. Quinn Hughes was 4 on our Hart rankings. So he's having a good year. I'm really interested to see when this is all said and done at the end of the year how the voting goes for specifically the Norris and the Hart, and if there's comparisons on, like I was just describing, about giving it to Nathan MacKinnon for those reasons. Do they get ahead of that game now and give it to Quinn Hughes and as far as the Norris for those same reasons, and not let Quinn Hughes get into his 30s and be like, wow, we haven't given this guy a Norris yet, so just get it over with now. I don't know. We'll see.
And who would have thought you would have saw an Edmonton Oiler defenseman in the top 10 of a Norris?
That is a very, very, very good point. I know, because they've just been beaten up so much on the defensive side, but at least, I mean, they have one good one. You can't deny that. So that's where we stand. I don't know what we're going to do next. But whatever it is, we'll obviously, we'll discuss it here. Maybe it's the Jack Adams. I feel.
This is not Bednar's year,
which I have thoughts on that one. So maybe it is. I don't know. Whatever it is, we'll discuss that next week. You were talking about Vancouver, and you know the odds of them and winning is not that their time is running out, but what is their window? Well, The Athletic did an article on that as far as who they think is going to win the Cup in 2028. Where did the Avalanche sit? We'll discuss that next. eBay Motors and passion, drive, and patience. It's what brings home the winning trophy. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, style, we call that what?
The Nathan MacKinnon trilogy.
That's eBay Motors. It's got you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into an MVP and bring home the win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit is only available to U.S. customers. All right. So the Athletic, like I said, they did a article on. Well, they ranked all 32 teams. They broke it up into two spots, 16 and 16. So the top 16 teams as far as the odds of winning the cup in 2028. I'll give everybody a second. Just in your mind, think of where you think they have the Avalanche ranked in this. It's got to be at least 1 through 16 because they were not on the 17 through 32 list. So it's somewhere here 1 through 16. I'll give you a second. In your mind, just imagine it. Where do you think it is? And then I will read off the top 10. So you know they're in 10 anyway. 10 is Boston Bruins, 9 New York Rangers, 8 Vancouver Canucks, 7 Vegas Golden Knights, 6 Florida Panthers, 5 Carolina Hurricanes, 4 New Jersey Devils, 3 Dallas Stars, 2 Colorado Avalanche, and number 1 the Edmonton Oilers at number 1. And the funny thing here, like we're just missing out on today's episode because with the Norris rankings, how I said it was like 1.6 and 1.7 or what it was between Hughes and Makar. They have the Avalanche at 34% odds of winning the cup, and Edmonton they have at 35%. So again, it's just a little sliver. They're right there. They do have a little blurb about the Avs. I can just read it for you. The 2022 champs will spend the next 5 years with arguably the best player in the world, non-Connor McDavid division. Which, why do they have to put that parentheses in there? If you're saying he's arguably the best player in the world, full stop right there. And a franchise blue liner on a sweetheart contract. And what somewhat depressingly for some other teams in the Central, they're not even that old. Nothing is guaranteed, and we know that the window can close faster than we think, but they're in great shape to be the favorites both this year and beyond. Okay with them at 2. Annoyed Edmonton's at number 1. What are your thoughts on this?
Hearing this, I like even in the blurb, they couldn't even keep his name out of their mouth. But Athletic, come on, put 2 and 2 together. That should be the Los Angeles Kings at number 1 because that's where Connor McDavid will be in 2028.
Wow. You heard it here first.
It will not be Edmonton. It's
I don't know.
After a while you get frustrated with the same old. It's the definition of insanity. And on it, what has that team done? Like seriously, there hasn't been any kind of push. They have not scared anybody when it comes to the playoffs. I understand you're great. Like they're looking like a great team now. Horrible start to the year. McDavid was hurt. The Oilers were reeling. They're putting it together now, but they have not done a single thing to scare anybody in the playoff appearances.
All right.
What changes in the next 4 years where that changes?
A long time, man. That's a long time. A lot can change in 4 years. A lot. And us being Avalanche fans, we should know that. So I think when you see Edmonton at number 1 of a list like this, people immediately just throw their hands in the air and be like, they haven't done anything. Well, this is not in the past. This is in the future. And you learn from the past. So if you feel like the Edmonton will learn from the mistakes and in the next 4 years correct those mistakes and make their roster stronger, yeah, I mean, and that's true for anybody, right? It's true for anybody in the league. But for them, if they can keep Connor McDavid around, you got Leon Draisaitl, like you obviously have the makings of a really good team. You can turn that around. You can turn the goalie issues around. You can turn the defensive issues around in 4 years.
Well, next year will be 10 years of Connor McDavid mania in the NHL. What have they learned? What have they done? And how have they improved in 10? How is that going to change in 4?
Well, they've had like they've never gotten to where they need to. I mean, hey, they made the Eastern Conference Finals. That's nothing to sneeze at, right? Like you've had some success. You just haven't gotten over the hump, right? And right now, look at them. They're on a tear right now. So
what's and I take a shot on them every time they get brought up in this position, but what separates them from Carolina?
Connor McDavid. Carolina does not
But
have a Connor McDavid. I mean,
but
nobody does. But
Carolina has made it farther, and they have made more of a playoff push than Edmonton.
well, Carolina's never made the cup. Well, they've made the cup. I'm saying like in this current past handful of years, but they've made it as far as Edmonton. They made it to the conference finals.
But see, that's the thing. We're talking about
Mhm.
putting a whole team around Connor McDavid. All Carolina has to do is put a Connor McDavid adjacent on that team, and they should be number one.
Mhm.
We're talking about this is the same conversation year in, year out around the Edmonton Oilers. We have to do if we could get 2 more really good forwards and maybe 3 more defensemen and a semi-average goalie. No, you're playing fantasy hockey every year for Edmonton to find the perfect recipe to give Connor McDavid a cup. That's 10
Mhm.
years of it. Other teams like Colorado Avalanche are figuring out ways to do natural your talent that you draft, you grow, you cultivate,
Mhm.
cheap contracts, Drouin, Nichushkin experiments. They're doing it the right way. Everybody player friendly contracts, not like Toronto. Like they're figuring out the right way to put teams together. In Edmonton, every year it's the same song and dance. After Edmonton loses and you see sad Connor McDavid, it's what does Edmonton need to do to win a cup? And
Yeah.
then they go out and get somebody else and it doesn't work, and then rinse, wash, repeat.
No, it's a very good point. Like at this point of his career, you would have thought he would have at least played for a cup or two. It's not easy to win them, but the fact that he hasn't, that is a big concern.
That's a decade,
So
10 years.
yeah, it's great. Yeah, that is crazy. So it's kind of just what do you feel like? Do you think that's just going to continue, or do you think that they can overcome that? That's really the two roads you go down. And his new contract will speak volumes. Is he going to hamstring them again? Well, he didn't. I mean, I guess he left some money on the table for the Leon Draisaitl thing, but that was it. You need to leave money on the table for a lot more than just one other guy. So where they go with his new contract will speak volumes. I'm not disagreeing with you in that, like I'm not arguing for Edmonton to be at number one. Um, I'm on that road of like, man, when you have him on your team, you always got a shot. You always have a shot when he's on your team. They haven't proven it. I think it's just when they get to the playoffs, that's where the other teams who are more complete top to bottom can hang it on them. They can get through a regular season. They're doing that now. But when you get to the playoffs, that's another animal. And if you don't have all of those holes plugged, the ship's going to go down. And that's what's been happening with them year after year.
And I'm going to do my mic drop closing point on this.
Boom.
The Avalanche have gone from the worst team to a Stanley Cup winner in the entire time of McDavid's career. So I don't believe it.
So true. So yeah, I like this thing. You have here. I want to get to. I thought was really interesting. Number 16 on here. I had to laugh. Detroit Red Wings. Like
How's,
we're still going to be spinning the tires in Detroit. In 4 more years, they're still going to be doing this never-ending rebuild. I don't see it. I think they will be much more improved. I will at least think that, but they're another one that just like they keep doing the same. They're much more improved this year, but are they really? They might miss the playoffs again. Who knows? I thought that was a funny one to see at 16.
yeah, and for all the we need to sign Parise guys, where's all the hey, we need to sign Patty Kane guys? Where's he right now? Oh, injured reserve.
He's
Okay,
hurt.
cool.
He's hurt. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. And then obviously the Avs against the Kings tonight. We really didn't touch on that a ton, but this is again the Kings are just in free fall right now. The Edmonton Oilers needed to start playing better and a team ahead of them to hit a wall. It's exactly what's happened. Edmonton is off and running, and they got the Los Angeles Kings to pretty much forget how to play hockey. And they're just a team in dire straits right now. So if you're the Avalanche, like you did against Washington, you went out and took care of business like you should have with everything that was in front of you with that game. Here's another one where a team. So on the flip side of that, you got Los Angeles should not be just throwing in the towel. So you might have a team that is out there just going full bore, but you have to step in and say like, nope, not on our watch. You're not going to start that today.
No, and they're already having the locker room issues and people calling people out in Los Angeles. Like, this is a team imploding. This is a perfect game for the Avalanche to play down again, and you do not need to slip back into bad habits and bad behavior. You need to just rinse, wash, repeat the Washington game and move on and keep building. Don't just take a breath because Los Angeles has lost 12 of 14.
Yeah, they were one of the hottest teams early in the year, and they can't figure it out right now. So continue that for them. Help them out. Keep that going for them. All right, that's going to wrap it up, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today and every day to Locked On Avalanche. We will be back on Monday. We'll discuss this Kings game, and maybe they make a signing. We don't know. We'll talk about whatever happens with the Avs on Monday. Once again, thank you for tuning in and making your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. He's Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you Monday.